All right. All right. So this morning I was just feeling into how our minds work. The Judas principle, Jekyll and Hyde, how we flip-flop personalities. Sometimes it's so fractured that we have multiple personalities. It's a real phenomenon. But an obvious one is just the polarity, duality, the flip-flop, the Jekyll and Hyde. And often it can be so deep in the classic Jekyll and Hyde situation, which occurs often when people drink or on some stimulants, or nowadays pharmaceutical drugs, they black out. So the very thing you're pushing against is what comes back in spades, obviously evidenced by things like the Columbine shooting and so forth, and everyone that's involved with that is usually on some kind of drugs. The school shootings, it's drugs. They've been trained in the military and then they're on heavy psychotropic drugs. It's often how it happens. Or they're teenagers that are just so pushed and bullied. But that's another topic, although it's part of the same thing. So the Judas principle, when you've been with people, it's in marriages, I joke about it. It's I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, I found my soulmate. Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. Then one day it goes, talk to my lawyer. Right? Whoa, where'd that come from? That's the flipping. You flip out, you black out. And often people don't remember that other side of us because it's so suppressed. It's the divided consciousness has been shoved in the basement in our minds, through pain and trauma and so forth. So that one's an obvious one, when relationships. And the deeper you go, and by the way, it's not wrong or to judge if you're going through a Judas principle. The most devoted, the most interested, the most erudite, the most learned, the most advanced disciple in one way was Judas. But he was doing it sort of intellectually. He wasn't maybe including, this is surmising my opinion, so forth, including his heart as much, or his first foundational chakras, the root, the life gate, the sex, your solar plexus. And if you're not got a solid foundation, then you're like a building without a foundation. You'll flip-flop all over the place. Whatever's the latest and greatest teaching. Oh, I found a new thing. This will save me finally. Yeah, but you're not getting deep enough, And so both metaphorical and real, because we make the realities with our minds. King Arthur is real. That thing is real. It really happened, but it was in a different timeline, right between the worlds, between the mists of Avalon and so forth, and the different dimensions. And when you insist on a 3D collective program matrix reality, then you can exclude these things. They never happened. They were just myths. But when you're more expanded, it's just as real as anything else. This is a big myth too. Earth at this time is a myth. This is a myth. In the future, people are going to look back and go, that's not true. We were never that imprisoned or shut down. That could not have happened. People won't believe it. So the flip-flop happens when the deeper you go, and it often occurs in relationships because you're actually including foundational chakras. Now, sex. And then if you include the root chakra with that too, you'll hit these places of where you are bifurcated, where the split in your brain is there, where you're in the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, and in denial, the unconscious, the id entity, the suppressed entities, they'll surface, but then we have the knowledge of good and evil on them, so we flip and go, oh no, I don't want to touch that. It's like you touch a hot stove, that cat will never go on this hot stove again. And this is how we try to go to the other end of the universe and create false heavens, chant our way. And people that have been, that's why people flip. They're reformed thieves, or they used to run prostitution rings and now they're super Christians. You know what I mean? It's that flip-flop. We're trying to integrate the polarities. The soul is interested well, it's not true. The soul is interested in all kinds of things, but in those people that are interested in reintegrating, you'll have the flip-flopping is very normal. So in relationships, if you go really deep with someone, because of free will, you can't predict it. Source Tao can predict it and knows what's going to happen, but we don't. But if you tap into Source Tao, Father, Mother, Source, you can um, tap into what's going to happen too. That's why when masters meet you and you're a super devotee, you're like, oh, master, I would never betray you ever. Sort of like the Peter principle. When he says, Judas betrayed you, I would never do that. I'm using Jesus because it's such a collective myth or story or reality, depending on what you believe or want to attach to. Um, See, it's all made up. All the atoms, all the electrons, the photons, the amplitude-hedron, the pieces of the created universe, it's all consciousness based. So all myths are real, and all reality is false. All reality is illusion, Maya mitote, dream fog, as the Toltecs call it, or Maya, illusion, lila, play of God, source, our minds, as the Vedic traditions, the yogic traditions call it. True. So all reality is also illusion, and all myth and illusion is also reality. But that's the nice intellectual concept. For you to experience that, it can be scary as fuck at times. Because, wow, a friend of mine, he's saying his son recently is having some meltdowns, opens, I would call it, where he's experiencing reality in other dimensions, and that's terrifying. We usually label those people schizophrenic if they don't know how to hold the grounded space. When Ram Dass's teacher eats 3 giant hits of acid and nothing happens to him, and this is back in the 60s when the acid was pure, nothing happens. Apparently on the outside, because he is already expanded. He's not divided into conscious, subconscious. So for him, it's just, oh, he's just checking it out. Oh, okay, I know what that would do for normal people and stuff like that. So the Judas principle is totally normal on the path. The flip-flop, the Jekyll and Hyde, your lover just flips out or totally betrays. Wow, it's like I'm living with a stranger. Yeah, totally normal. If you're not aware of the deeper levels. So when Peter proclaims and complains to Jesus, I would never betray you, Master. Jesus, looking from the unified place more, sees with love, Peter, before the cock crows, before the sunrise, you will betray me 3 times, meaning deny me, not own up that you know me. That's in the Bible, right? That occurs with masters. When I meet people, now, I'm not a master like those guys, but I'm a baby. I'm a baby, you know. And when I meet people now, and Joy will experience it, that she'll be like, "Oh, these are great people," but I'm sort of like playing along with the surface stuff, and then I'm feeling with my solar plexus and my heart and my belly and my root chakra, show me what's there on the flip side. Like Yogananda said, the bigger the front, the bigger the back. The bigger the front, don't you be fronting, the bigger the backside. I'm not going to talk about Kim Kardashian in this case. I like those guys, Kanye and Kim. They're great. Fucking, could you imagine doing that? Anyway, so everyone has their role, big or small, it don't matter. We need them all. And so the front side, when you meet people, there's the fronting. I mean, we know that now. There's the facade, the presentation face, it's been called. It's so obvious now with newscasters. It's like almost like, oh God, who is that? We were watching a show yesterday with one of the NBCs. Somebody does a show. What would you do? And Joy said, doesn't he feel a little creepy to you? And I go, well, that's just his persona, his false mask of him being a reporter. And you can feel there's a lot more to him. Is he like doing S&M dungeon shit and all that, right? Which nothing wrong with that. And so when you feel beyond the image presentation. I don't care if they have got PR agents and image consultants from Hollywood and magic and trickery and reels of unreal movies and putting on the glamour of Mists of Avalon, by the way. priestesses, the reason they went down back in King Arthur's time is because they would use the glamour. Although lover and a gorgeous maiden on the backside is the fucking crone that's going to cut your heart out and eat it and drink you. True. Right? So all that makeup, what are you making up for? Nothing wrong with a little makeup, but if you're putting your majority of your persona in your makeup presentation facade, of course you're going to flip-flop, black out, Jekyll and Hyde, do the Judas principle. Of course. And it's so bad that, we joke about it. Like some women not too long ago, a generation or two ago, would never let their husbands see them without makeup. That's how programmed it was. It's not about assigning judgment or malice or looking down on people. We're all doing this at various levels. I'm doing it. I'm wearing a fake tooth right here, right? Because it would freak. It's too much. It's in America and Europe. It wouldn't be a big deal. I'm gonna get that replaced. But here in America, we're obsessed with perfect teeth. Image worship, and image worship is very shallow. Look, we have a fake tank. That's the Roku. It's fake. It's considered okay to have fake grass, fake. It's okay, considered okay to have. I gotta go get my battery plugged in here. Hang on. My phone quit recently. I'm actually having to make an appointment at the Apple store to have them. You have to make an appointment to get to go see Apple. That's how a program we are. Hang on. Excuse me while I plug in the charger. My girlfriend has to give up her phone for 20 minutes. That's fucking end of the world. Hope she doesn't hear me. No, I'm kidding. Hang on while I plug in. Okay, wait. 1, 2, 3. Let me open her fancy case. There we go. Okay, apologies. I don't edit, so that'll be there. So the Judas principle is not. So when I met Sai Baba and Babaji and these guys, one time I remember Baba looking at me, and I happened to get a picture of it at the same time. And I looked at his eyes were totally expanded, like he's feeling universes. But he's looking through me. I'm looking through you. What do you know? Right? He's looking through me. It's unnerving because I know he's seeing not my little happy 22-year-old Swedish face, right? He's seeing all my lifetime. He's seeing me as a soul. And he's giving me a pretty stern look. And I'm like, why is he angry at me? So masters see the big picture in you. They don't see your happy little single incarnation or whatever you're presenting. So that's why it's confusing. Like the thief or the horrible Al Capone is actually a really good-hearted man. That's why we're fascinated with Goodfellas and, the Coppola's movies trilogy or The Godfather. Because we know there's two sides to it. See, it goes the other way too, not just the happy presentation face. The evil-looking thing can be really a soul-exploring balancing, right? That's why when the mafia bosses, you watch them with their kids or their dogs, and there's a lot of love, right? But they're dealing hardcore with other darkness. It's actually pretty advanced places, to be truthful. Often, and then their underlings are usually whatever they are. But anyway, so the Judas principle is totally normal when you're opening up deeply, especially if you're opening up through romance, love, fucking, sex. Especially if you're including the root chakra, you're going to trigger the whole house of cards. So people are going to flip on you. You're going to see their entities come out of them. Sometimes during sex. I've had that happen. I had a woman once turn into an ancient Egyptian goddess, except not a good one. She had this supernatural strength come through her, grab me by the neck, and my instant reaction was, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And God whispered in my ear, hang in there. I got something to teach you. It's amazing. It's like a whole different personality took her over. It's ancient Egypt, and she used to be a healer in ancient Egypt. She still is here. She's a vibrational toning healer. And but that other side of her was some ancient demon from Egypt. That's why I've never gone to Egypt, because I know there's a whole bunch of stuff there yet. So I know it's a lot of truth telling, but so that flip flopping, blacking out, you know, multiple personality stuff, totally normal. I have a funny picture I took when I was down in Peru of me sitting in front of Buddha, and in one personality I'm holding my little, doing my little, chanting symbols. And by the way, this is not 666. It is if you want it to be, or it's an ancient mudra that Buddha does. It's up to you. You decide. Symbols are for the symbol-minded. Don't get stuck in symbolism. Do the real thing I encourage people to do. Anyway, on one side I'm going, oh, I'm a beautiful meditator. And the other side I'm going, motherfuckers, fucking rip your heart out. And I take both pictures, and I have a guy help me with putting it on both sides of Buddha. And the caption is, unless you're spiritually bipolar at this time on earth, you're not on your real path. Now, if it happens unconsciously, that's when you black out and you don't recall, Your Honor. I don't recall, Your Honor, killing those people, O.J. Simpson. Which could be very, very well be true. He could have completely blacked that out because his idea was to be such a good guy and all that and a superstar, right? So if you do it in unconsciousness or in denial, you black it out and you flip-flop and you actually don't recall what happened. You black out. It's a famous case here in Phoenix a few years ago of a beautiful Mormon man, Mormon family, lots of Mormons out west here. And one night he was volunteered all the time, worked all that. It was just a mainstay of the community. Everybody loved him. He was so good. It was such a good front. It was such a good positive presentation face. Oh, and then one night he flips out and stabs his wife 43 times while not saying anything. Totally quiet. Just 43 times. No one could believe it. The only reason he was convicted is because there happened to be a neighbor that heard the noise of the actual stabbing. And it was on 2020, years ago. As a case, as one of their segments. And he saw him do it. That was the only reason he got convicted. So when we get that Jekyll and Hyde, there's lots of stories like that. Happens a lot, exactly. Guy here locally, also in Arizona, a very Pentecostal cult, Christian Pentecostal, speaking in tongues, really suppressive cult. The women had to wear long skirts all the way to their ankles, no makeup and all that, because it's shameful. The woman is the whore of Babylon and all that stuff, right, from the Bible. And at night, he was literally running a prostitution ring. He was pimping women at night. Totally Jekyll and Hyde. Lots of stories like this. I'll bring you another one since we had the Judge Kavanaugh thing going on here lately. So one step below the Supreme Court is the Superior Court judges. And then one of the most famous ones or most powerful ones would be the New York area, the whole Northeast Superior Court. And a really sweet man. You could tell he was really a gentle man. Superior Court, whatever the highest court is under the Supreme Court, the one step below. He had kids that went to Stanford and Yale, and they were perfect social members of the Social Society of New York, Manhattan, and so forth. Everything is like the perfect. It's too perfect. Methinks he doth present a perfection too much. Thank you, Shakespeare. A little bit. Methinks he doth protest too much, right? Well, he had started having an affair with a wealthy socialite, a widow from some wealthy New Yorker. And then finally she broke it off and said, look, you have a family and you can't do that. You can look it up. And when they broke it up, she started getting, you guys are going to read ahead on this, threatening letters that said, we're going to kill you. We're watching you. We get pictures and had to get them mailed to her and all this. And she, of course, went back to the judge and said, please help me with this, someone is crazily threatening me, extorting me for money or something like that. This went on for months. The FBI got involved, and he's like, of course I'll help you. And he says, no, I respect we don't have a relationship, but I'll help you. Well, they caught the judge red-handed mailing the threatening packages. Jekyll and Hyde. They caught him on film, photos, doing it. And I'm not pointing out this it's just our current state of the Judas principle, the flip-flop, the Jekyll and Hyde, is very normal. I feel it in me. Now, if you feel it consciously, You're trying to integrate these old aspects or interrupted lifetimes or traumatic lifetimes. Yeah, there's tons of these stories. There's a woman, of course, tons of these of judges, especially the more the front is, the more the backside. Yogananda saying, I'm not saying it, says the bigger the front, the bigger the back. And if you're interested in integration, oneness, communion, you know, we should then you need to merge these together, you know. Follow me on Facebook. I'll put that picture up today or in association with this video. If you want to see it, the one about me in the ceremonial Maloka, after where we do medicine ceremonies, where we did medicine ceremonies with me going, oh, hi, I'm a meditator. I love everyone. What the fuck, you know, flip-flop like that. That's totally normal. Totally normal. You don't, it's not bipolar. See, we've labeled it, and that's an entree for the big pharmaceuticals to come in there and medicate everybody, which is to zombify everybody, right? Now, I'm not saying that big pharma, everything has its place and its time. But long term, no. We're naturally healed long term. So temporary help, I needed temporary help last year with some blood pressure meds. That was my humbling and my healing, because I'd activated something too soon. And rather than me die, it's better to use some temporary, but to stay on it long term, not healthy, obviously. So I'm drinking my celery and my wild blueberries and all that stuff. So the Judas principle, the flip-flop, the Jekyll and Hyde, is a totally normal, to be expected principle as you dig down into trying to integrate. If you stay in the hall of mirrors, in the ivory tower of your mental head, it'll just get crazier and crazier. Yeah. So in my opinion, I'm not a doctor about any of this, but schizophrenia is when we have these things trying to integrate, maybe, and if there could be body somatic therapies and healing that way, like, well, autistic children, they come in that way too, and they have pressure machines and stuff like that. So what I recommend the most is the ancient Shiva technique. It's not my invention, that I call the inner body awakening. And you go to innerbodyawakening.com. That's the foundational thing. I was just doing it this morning. I was in total ecstasy. I'd had a pain in my hip last night that turned into total ecstasy. It's very, very beautiful. And then I had an incredible rejuvenating sleep the last 2 hours. And I just kind of got knocked out, and Spirit was helping me do all that. So, yeah, you need to go see the doctors. I'm not a doctor, You need to do the regular route, but then you can also supplement with diet, meditation, inner body awakening, ancient Shiva. Just feeling your energies, getting grounded in your body will tend to help ground you. Just like you do it when you calm down dogs or people that are hyperventilating or whatever. We need to get grounded in the body. Now, we aren't taught this growing up in school, so we, of course, get no help, really, except the medical establishment, which desperately struggles with things that they don't really understand when you reach spiritual levels. They understand mechanics. They're like car mechanics, If I have a problem with my gallbladder or my other surgeries or broken bones or something, of course, thank you so much, yeah. Much love. So the flip-flop thing is totally normal, even in the most spiritually advanced practices. So you'll have the second highest Dalai Lama, the guy one below the Dalai. He'll just be, doing tons of sexual stuff with young women that he's hiding. See, the key is if it's hiding, if you're in the Mr. Hyde phase, right? Dr. Jekyll, very good during the day, healing everybody, famous doctor around New York and London. And at night, it's basically Jack the Ripper, Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Very powerful stories, very true stories. All right. So it's a normal principle, and if the dam breaks too soon, like Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, if the dam bursts too soon, you end up in crazy land, and you can't integrate it. Sid Barrett, God bless him, now probably induced by two big LSD trips, right? Mixed with music and space consciousness and, those early Pink Floyd concerts were just accessing space music, right? So he ends up the rest of his life basically as a medicated, with problems. So you don't want to open too soon, and you want to stay grounded. You want to stay grounded, you know. Yeah, the Unabomber was incredibly smart intellectually, but obviously what he did, and so is Charles Manson. Absolutely, Charlie Manson is a huge intellect and powerful. But if you don't ground it with love and groundedness, you'll end up like those guys. Not a good ending. You know what I'm saying? So you can't be bombing people. You can't flip out into that stuff. So often, yes, intellect without grounding, intellect without heart, intellect without solar plexus, intellect without body. That's why body therapies and feeling therapies, and whether that's just talking or whatever, but I recommend the inner body awakening to really help you not fly off into la la land or delusional land, which often happens with a super sharp intellect. The sharpest guy I ever knew. I wasn't a dummy. I took a year of college and high school, I got accepted to whatever school I wanted to go. We did really well. But the guy that was turbo smarter than me, he was, unbelievable, just in a whole nother realm. He went crazy. And at the time, I was 18 or whatever, and I asked, why does this happen? I was shown the image of, it's like a scalpel. Scalpel is an incredibly sharp instrument, the intellect. You can cut your throat with it very much easier than with a dull knife. So super sharp intellect can make you go crazy or too sensitive without being grounded. So that's why I recommend the inner body awakening. Get grounded. Feel your feet on the earth. Do some earthing. Do body therapies. Do exercise. I lift weights. I used to when I didn't have this thing. I've been healing for a while, so I'm just doing light stuff. Why do I lift weights? So I balance all this fucking spiritual upward kundalini, right? And my heart. The full spectrum human. We can't neglect parts of us. If you become like Stephen Hawking and you just do your mind, his body he's studying, trying to figure out what gravity is. I'm just joking here, I'm respecting. He's totally at the effect of gravity there in his wheelchair, Stephen Hawking, because he's not paying attention to the body. That's not balanced. But neither is someone who's just totally into the body. And they're not activating their intellect. We need the full 7 cylinders, the 7 chakras operating. Get body. Get sex, get rootedness, get intuition, get heart, get love, get truth hearing and speaking, get truth insight, remote viewing, seeing, get downloads from the heavens, the full 7 churches, the 7 pillars, the 7 stars, the 7 locks in the book of Revelation to become a full spectrum human. If you're interested in full spectrum humanness, that's what we call our webcast on Sundays, the Full Spectrum Human webcast with yours truly, Tobias Lars, if you're interested. So, TobiasLars.com, check out the webcast. I recommend that. We do a lot of fun, play, love, but also keeping it grounded and real. And start with the inner body awakening is great, like Anders says right there. In my opinion, I do it every day because it keeps me from floating off into la la land too much, which most people watching this, if they've not been exposed to me before, will go, well, Tobias, that's some pretty weird far out stuff. Don't watch my UFO video I just posted, by the way. That's really far out. All right. Much love. And so it's normal to have the flip-flopping back and forth. Or I joked with people this whole last year. I go, I'm not schizophrenic. 11:11 a.m., that's a good time. We'll end on that time, on that note. I said, I'm not schizophrenic. I'm multiphrenic. Now, my friends will laugh. They'll get it. Because we're multiple aspects of a soul projecting itself into many existences. You likely have 108 bodies right now, probably on Earth, if you're a bit of an advanced soul. So, much love. TobiasLars.com. Recommend start with the inner body awakening. And we're going to have a full conscious breath up here probably sometime in the next month, hopefully. I hate to say it. Yeah, multi-frantic. Exactly. Totally normal. If you can start becoming an observer, I recommend some discipline. A few videos about it you need some structure or discipline, some practice. I do. I got to meditate twice a day, sometimes for 2 hours at a time. I got to walk the dogs, do stuff, Minimal exposure to frantic media and craziness. I have to kind of cut that off. Like right now, I can feel even just talking a little bit like this, the back of my neck is saying, okay, that's enough. All right. TobiasLars.com, Sundays, much love. The webcast, the full spectrum human webcast. All right. Thanks for your love and attention. Ciao.